Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So for this video, I'm going to show you how to create these cute little embellished library card pockets just from some plain cardstock and your little paper scraps. I created a whole bunch of these for my journal, especially for the inside of like the first page, just to mark off like when I started my journal and when I completed my journal. So I really wanted some library cards, and there are these cute little library cards that are kind of like they're little shallow and stuff. You can find them on Amazon, but instead of buying them, I decided that I would just make my own. And so I am showing you here that you just take an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and you're going to have to cut out little strips of paper that are 3.5 inches wide and 5.75 inches tall. And then you're going to want to score at the 2.5 inch mark, either from the top or the bottom, so that you get this little template where you just kind of fold along the score mark, and then you just decorate. And what I do is just sew up the edges of my pockets, but you can use washi tape, you can tape them down, you can use double-sided tape or whatever. But yeah, so you saw here that I just cut my paper down to like the 3.5 inch wide strips, and now I'm just going to cut them down so that they are 5.75 inch height. And I will leave the dimensions to how you have to cut your paper down in the description box. But I'm just using my paper trimmer here just to measure out at the 5.75 mark, and I am just cutting all of my strips of paper down to that size. And then you'll see that I'm just going to go back, and to get that little flap that folds up, you have to score your paper at 2.5 inches. So there should be about 3.25 inch on the top, and then the bottom should be 2.5. So your pocket should be 2.5 inches. And so once you have your little pieces of paper, and you can get 3 out of an 8.5 by 11 sheet, I am just folding up where I scored my paper just to create the actual little pocket. Now, I know there's probably a better way to do this than like sew the edges, but this is the really simple way, and you create cute little pockets to just tuck little things in. Cards will fit into here, or like any small little ephemera bits. And so what I'm doing now is I'm pulling out all of my little scrap pieces of paper. So if you're anything like me, you tend to collect a lot of these like little pieces of paper from bigger pieces of paper that you cut up to use on a project, and you just have a bunch of these little scraps. I never know what to do with these scraps. Lately, I've been using these scraps more, or like going to these scraps more before I decide to cut into a larger sheet of paper, because I tend to collect these a lot and they just pile up. And so this is a really good project to do if you just want to get rid of your scraps and just make some really cute like little collaged pockets. And so I'm basically using my scraps, and I am going to decorate the flap part of my pocket and then just the top part of the inside, because you're not really going to see the inside. You're only just going to see this outside portion and like the little piece on the top. And so that's what I do here. I just go and like mix and match and collage all the different papers onto my pocket. And I am using a mixture of, I have like some vintage sheet music, and I think all of my bases end up being some sort of neutral type color. So the cardstock I'm using is the Michael's Recollection cardstock. This is what I'm using for the base of my pocket. It is in the color Dove White, and I find that this Dove White is like, it's not a cream, and it's kind of like an ivory, but it's like a really light ivory off-white. It's not like stark white. And I really like that to get sort of that, get sort of that really like kind of light vintage look. But of course I'm covering all of it up, but you can leave a bit of it. But I like using it because if I have little spaces in my collage where I didn't cover up that well, it's still not a white and not a stark white, but also it's not like that really dark cream color. But yes, I'm just collaging. I'm using either sheet music or like vintage paper, usually as the first layer, and then I'm using different pieces of scraps. I think a lot of my scraps here are from Nazi Amity Bloom printables, and I have some wallpaper scraps here, and I have some paper scraps that like I tore from magazines, and then some vellum pieces. And I think I do have a little bit of scrapbooking paper scraps here as well. So I'm using an assortment of scraps, and I'm just kind of mixing them and matching them just to get like a nice balance of color and patterns and textures. And I think all of my little pockets end up coming out looking a little bit the same because I'm just like collaging it all in the same way. And so I did the little flap, and you can just see that I just kind of cut off the excess if it ran over. And now I am trying to figure out what to cover that top portion. And so this is the inside of the pocket, and we're not going to see the entire inside of the pocket. And so all I want to do is just cover up that ivory paper at the top, and I just need a little bit of something there. And so I will either collage pieces of paper or just put one piece of paper there, but I just play around and mix and match, and you can see that I'm not covering the entire back because you're not going to see it anyway. I'm just covering it enough so that just the top portion that you're actually going to see is covered. And so I'm just looking through my scraps to see if I can find anything that will match. I was trying to make that kind of purple florally wallpaper pattern there to be like a focus, and so I end up going with this little scrap from, I believe it's a Maggie Holmes paper from her garden party, and I think it's like where the branding strip is, and I just want the pink portion of it, but I think I glue the whole thing down. You're not going to see the like that minty floral part anyway once I stitch up the pocket, and so I just glue that down, and then again trim off the excess because I don't need any of this excess paper. And once I have my little base here, I have to go and stitch it up. But before I do that, I'm just going to round my corners on the top. I don't know what it is, but I really like the look of the rounded corners, and I think the library cards that you buy on Amazon, they have the rounded corners. And so here, to seal up the pocket, I just run it through my sewing machine on either side, but you can take double-sided tape and glue it that way, or you can use washi tape to like fold it over, or you can take clear tape, but I just ran it through my sewing machine because I like the added texture that it gives, and I'm just snipping off the little excess, and there goes a cute little pocket. And so you can stick anything in your pocket, even cards fit in the pocket. So I did a couple, and I like having them around so that when I make my journals, I have little pockets to stick things in. And yeah, it's a really simple DIY project. You can just batch a bunch of them. I really hope you enjoyed this little project for me, and thank you so much for watching, and I guess I'll see you all next time. Bye!